Welcome to the deep dive. We've got some really interesting material you shared with us today. It looks like excerpts from some pretty personal conversations.
Yeah, that's right. And our job here is basically to unpack those for you, pull out the main insights so you get the gist without having to go through everything yourself.
Exactly. So the material you sent over, it seems to touch on, well, a few big themes, right? Beauty standards, how that connects to self-esteem.
And also this really significant issue of dowry that comes up later. It's quite a mix, but they all seem connected somehow through these discussions.
Right. And because they're conversations, we get a very sort of real-world feel for how these things affect people day to day.
Absolutely. It's quite personal.
Okay, so let's dive right in. The first conversation piece involves two people named Rhea and Robin, and they're talking about a classmate, Lily.
Yeah, and the core issue seems to be Lily's confidence, or lack thereof. She feels she isn't, beautiful enough, and is making her quite shy.
Rhea really expresses concern, notes how Lily kind of hangs back, hesitates to join in.
But Robin jumps in pretty quickly, doesn't she? She makes that point that beauty is, well, it's subjective. It's not just looks.
Yeah, she brings up personality, character, all those other things that make up a person, which is, a great perspective.
Totally. But Rhea points out something important, too. She agrees, but says Lily is really hard on herself. She's really internalized those narrower beauty ideals.
That really hits on the difference between knowing something like intellectually and truly feeling it about yourself, doesn't it?
It really does. And Robin's suggestion isn't just to tell Lily she's great, but to actively help her see her strengths.
Like what strengths did they mention?
Things like her kindness, her sense of humor, her intelligence, stuff that isn't about appearance at all. The idea is to shift her focus.
Right. And not just tell her, but show her. Robin talks about including her in things, right?
Exactly. Getting her involved in activities. That sense of belonging, being part of the group, that can be a huge confidence booster. It's practical.
Yeah, makes sense. Feeling included can make a world of difference.
And it ties into this other idea they touch on, celebrating that everyone's different. Individuality. Our differences are actually what make us interesting.
Instead of everyone trying to fit the same mold.
Precisely. And they wrap up that part by agreeing how important that mutual support is. Friends encouraging each other.
It's a good reminder, definitely, how those small interactions, including someone saying something positive, can actually build someone up.
For sure. It shows the power of, positive social mirroring on self-esteem.
Okay, so that's the first piece about Lily. Then the source material shifts to another conversation, this time between Robin and someone named Veronica.
And here the focus zooms out a bit, looking at how society, prioritizes beauty, especially in finding a partner. Veronica kicks this off.
She observes this big emphasis on meeting certain beauty standards.
Yeah, and Robin agrees right away, but then she adds a really interesting point, that outward beauty doesn't automatically mean someone has a good character.
Oh, right. She gives that example, doesn't she? About potentially beautiful girls who might be arrogant.
Exactly. It challenges that simple, often flawed idea that looks equal goodness. It's just not always true.
And she contrasts beauty with talent, suggesting talent lasts longer.
She does. Though they do mention this sort of ideal of finding someone who is both beautiful and talented. It acknowledges the societal pull, I guess.
But the conversation doesn't stop there. It brings up the downside, right? Overlooking people who don't fit the conventional mold but have amazing qualities.
Yeah, that's a direct consequence, isn't it? When we focus too much on the surface.
Which then leads them, maybe naturally, to talk about plastic surgery.
Right, as this sort of extreme measure people might take. But Robin adds a note of caution. The risks, the potential for it to look, unnatural.
But immediately after that, there's this pivot back towards natural beauty.
Yes. Championing the idea of embracing who you are. That confidence and self-acceptance, even with flaws, that's presented as a more profound kind of beauty.
It's a powerful counter message.
Definitely. And they also bring in other factors for a good life. Hard work, intelligence, determination. They mention incredible women building their careers.
So beauty alone isn't the key to everything. Far from it.
Not at all. And then the conversation takes on discrimination based on skin color?
Yes, that was a very clear point. The idea that it's totally unacceptable and we should value everyone regardless of looks they were born with.
A really crucial point about inherent worth. We don't choose how we look.
So that whole section on beauty standards kind of concludes by circling back, right, to the idea that true beauty is internal.
Exactly. Kindness, empathy, how you treat people, those inner qualities we talked about earlier with Lily, it all connects.
So you can see this thread running through from one person's struggle to these broader societal critiques of beauty standards.
Yeah, it builds quite logically.
Okay, so after exploring beauty and self-worth, the conversation shifts again. Now, Veronica asks Robin about a specific term, dowry.
Yes, a completely new topic introduced here, and Robin explains it pretty clearly.
What was the definition given?
That it's when the bride's family gives money, goods, or property to the groom's family when a marriage happens. A traditional practice, she notes, in some places.
Veronica says she'd kind of heard of the concept before, but maybe didn't know the specific word dowry.
Which might be true for a lot of people. It exists, but maybe isn't fully understood unless it directly affects you.
But then Robin adds a really important layer that it's actually illegal in many countries.
Right. Illegal, but still practiced. And that it often leads to women being treated unfairly. That gap between law and reality is significant.
In Veronica's reaction, it sounds quite emotional in the source text. Heartbroken about the pressure and pain it causes.
Yeah, she emphasizes weddings should be about love, not financial transactions or burdens. It's a strong contrast to the tradition itself.
The conversation then gets into the darker side, the potential consequences if demands aren't met.
Yes. Mental and even physical harm or torture. It really underlines how damaging this practice can be. It's not just about money changing hands.
It really brings home the severity. So Veronica then asks the million-dollar question. What can girls actually do if they're facing this pressure?
Good question. And Robin offers some potential steps. First, talking within the family.
How so?
Urging them to focus on love and respect in the marriage, rather than material gain. Trying to shift the family's own perspective first.
Okay, that makes sense. Starting within the immediate circle. What else?
Seeking legal advice. Understanding their rights, especially if the groom's side is really pushing for it. Knowing the law can be empowering.
Knowledge is power, as they say.
And crucially, Robin stresses never compromising your self-worth for love. That your dignity and well-being come first. Love shouldn't hurt.
That's a very strong message.
It is. And Veronica then adds another dimension, the power of education and financial independence for women.
Ah, right. How does that help?
Well, it gives women more agency, more ability to stand up for themselves and resist these kinds of demands. It's about empowerment from the ground up.
So education isn't just for careers, it's for life choices too.
Absolutely. And they also talk about the need for society as a whole to change its mindset, to really celebrate marriages based on love, not transactions.
It's not just individual action, it needs broader cultural shifts too.
Exactly. So they end that part agreeing on, advocating for change, saying no to dowry, supporting girls' education and dreams, basically working towards a world where love isn't conditional on payment.
It's quite a call to action, even in what sounds like a private chat.
It really is. They cover a lot of ground, defining the problem, exploring the harm, and thinking about solutions on multiple levels.
Okay, wow. We've really unpacked quite a bit from these conversations. So just to recap the big takeaways from this deep dive.
Well, first, that beauty is definitely more than skin deep, right? It's multifaceted, subjective, and includes those inner qualities like kindness and character.
Yeah, and building self-confidence isn't about fitting in, but about recognizing your own unique strengths and celebrating what makes you different.
And we saw how important it is to critically look at societal beauty standards, how limiting they can be. A person's real value goes way beyond appearance.
Definitely includes things like talent, intelligence, how they treat others.
Then we moved on to dowry. Understanding it as a harmful practice, illegal in many places, but still causing real pain and putting unfair pressure on families, especially women.
And the ways to combat it seem to involve, a mix of things. Empowering women through education and financial independence.
Alongside open communication, legal awareness, and crucially, a bigger societal shift towards valuing love and respect over material transactions in marriage.
Ultimately, it seems a lot of it boils down to self-love, self-acceptance, and treating everyone with basic human respect, regardless of looks or finances.
That seems to be the core message weaving through all these different threads. These personal chats really do illuminate some big societal issues.
They really do. So, perhaps a final thought for everyone listening to take away. Maybe consider how these norms we've discussed around beauty, around traditions like dowry, might be subtly shaping your own views or interactions, maybe without you even realizing it.
And think about what small steps, perhaps in your own life or conversations, you could take to question those norms or maybe help someone else recognize their own inherent worth.
Something to reflect on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.